Future years will never know the seething hell and the black infernal background of the Secession War. And it's best they should not. The real war will never get in the books. Walt Whitman, 1875. Amid the furious battles raging in the spring of 1864, thousands of newly captured soldiers from both armies surrendered their freedom and marched at the point of a bayonet to the rear of the enemy lines. After a long journey into the northern or southern heartland, prisoners entered already congested prisons, unable to handle a new influx of prisoners. In the North, it was decided that another Union training facility in Elmira, New York, could be altered into a prison to accommodate the excess of Confederate captives. The choice for the South, a new stockade cut from a pine forest in southwest Georgia near the small hamlet of Anderson, accepted the bulk of the Union prisoners. By far, the Andersonville pen ranks as the worst of all Civil War prisons and generated enormous outrage and controversy for decades after the war. Both Elmira Prison and the Andersonville Stockade would be remembered as appalling death camps, known for their deprivations and flagrant loss of life. The Elmira Military Prison undoubtedly ranks as the absolute worst prison in the North. Frequently compared to Andersonville, it was considerably smaller but still registered a deplorable 25% death rate in less than a year. When the camp opened in July 1864, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton had already set in motion his vindictive policy of retaliating against the Southern prisoners for the perceived mistreatment of Union prisoners in the Southern camps. By cutting rations to meager portions, delaying medicines, and withholding clothing, the dying among the Southerners accelerated not only at Elmira, but in all the northern prisons. In total accord with Stanton was Commissary General of Prisoners Colonel William Hoffman, who earlier gave the following directive to his commandants.
So long as a prisoner has clothes on his back, no matter how torn or ragged, you will issue him nothing.
After the war, the frugal Hoffman returned a total of $1.8 million to the War Department in unused funds initially allocated for the care of Confederate prisoners. Like all the prisons, north and south, Elmira lacked a sustainable diet, forcing prisoners to supplement their reduced rations by hunting and capturing the abundance of rats that inhabited all the polluted prisons. Prisoners later wrote in numerous diaries that it was a satisfying day when they enjoyed a warm helping of rat stew. Prisoner F.S. Wade went so far as to declare, "A broiled rat was superb."
I got up in my bunk with a bone, and after gnawing at the soft end, I sucked at the bone for hours at a time. Prisoner John King, Elmira Prison.
Carpenters at Elmira worked feverishly constructing wooden boxes trying to keep up with the large number of Confederates who forfeited life needlessly in a land with ample provisions. From a prison population of 10,000, nearly 3,000 identified and neatly arranged stones mark the final resting place of deceased prisoners in Woodlawn Cemetery. In charge of managing the cemetery was a black man and runaway slave, John Jones, who buried the defenders of slavery with the care and dignity he believed all people deserved. Nothing remains of Elmira Prison but the well-kept Confederate section of Woodlawn Cemetery, along with its Confederate memorial. The beauty and orderly grounds reflect the compassion of a caretaker who saw only young men robbed of life so early. In the same cemetery, John Jones rests in peace, not far from the Southerners for whom he bestowed the utmost respect in death. Marching from the train depot along an old wagon trail, hundreds of Yankee prisoners entered a brand new stockade in Georgia, feeling fortunate at being transferred from the deprivations on Belle Island. Any feeling of good fortune soon vanished. One of every 3 prisoners entering the Andersonville military prison never saw home again, but instead claimed space in the burial grounds that eventually exceeded the overall acreage of the prison itself. Stepping off the trains, they never imagined their new home was destined to be recorded in the annals of history as a stain on American decency and one of the saddest tragedies ever perpetuated on American soil. Soldiers were herded like farm animals into a barren 26-acre stockade with no shade. Upon entering the corral, Confederates issued no shelter for protection from the rain or the hot Georgia sun, no soap for washing, and no utensils for cooking. The small stream running through the camp, serving as both their toilet and drinking water, proved wholly inadequate for the sustenance of life. Excessive numbers of men without adequate latrines or means for defecating transformed Andersonville into a large cesspool, creating a stench that drifted on the air for miles around. Under the command of General John Winder, the population rose to an astounding 33,000 prisoners until Sherman's advance on Atlanta in September of 1864 forced most able prisoners to be relocated to other prisons. From that point on, Andersonville mostly served as a hospital for the critically sick prisoners unable to travel. In the stockade's 14-month existence, 13,000 Union soldiers took their last breath, but over 10,000 died in only 5 months over the wretched summer of 1864. Starvation, disease, and exposure killed 100 men per day during the month of August in the grossly overcrowded prison. When the wagons carried the skeletal remains to the cemetery, the burial details laid the naked and deceased prisoners in the trenches shoulder to shoulder without any coffins, leaving today's stone markers only inches apart. One of the last remaining soldiers to leave Andersonville on April 17, 1865, Corporal William Ziegler, later recalled the heart-wrenching scene.
Finally, the few that were left were ordered out. I looked back, and not one living soul remained in the enclosure. The empty prison and the standing stockade seemed like some grim monster, grinning with hatred because it had not taken the lives of the few who were left. As I stood outside the gate, I couldn't repress the tears as they ran down my hollow cheeks. I thought of the mothers, wives, and sisters in some far-off northern home, praying and awaiting the return of their loved one. But their bodies were moldering into dust.
At the turn of the 19th century, individual states began honoring their fallen soldiers at Andersonville. In the cemetery, as well as the stockade area, striking monuments pay tribute to those who suffered and died alone in a faraway land. The peace and serenity that permeate the pine forest of today bear little resemblance to the horrific scenes that defiled the same ground so many years ago. No piece of land in American history saw more death and misery than the deadly grounds at Andersonville Prison. Sergeant Robert Kellogg rose up before the gathering of aging vets and remembered those who died a long way from the theater of war with little salutation or reverence. With words that may have pertained to the many brave American prisoners who surrendered their lives in all wars, past or present, he told the crowd,
"It was not in the heat of battle that these men gave up their life. No cheer of victory roused them as their souls took flight, but in the loneliness of a multitude, with only a comrade by their side, within an enemy's line under a hostile flag, these sons passed to their great reward."